Nigeria's security police, the DSS, has denied reports of embarking on a joint security operation with U.S. diplomatic security operatives in the Abuja suburb of Lugbe, as reported in the media. A spokesman for the Department of State Services, Peter Afunanya, who confirmed this to Arise News, acknowledged that a joint operation occurred with the Nigerian army in the area, with a suspect arrested, but that it was not with the Americans. He's assuring Nigerians of their safety while urging citizens to remain alert and report suspicious activities to security agencies. Afunanya says there was nothing unusual about the security advisory issued by the U.S. Embassy and other embassies of Western nations, as the DSS had previously issued a similar advisory in recent times where it urged Nigerians to remain alert due to the antics of terrorist cells in Abuja, and that several arrests have been made of some suspects linked to Boko Haram. He also says the suspects are being prosecuted in various courts. All right, Wilson Inalegwu, who is a retired Assistant Inspector General of Police, joins us now to, address these developments. Well, it's good to see a smile on your face. I mean, being a retired AIG, that gives some comfort, doesn't it? Yeah. But if you were an ordinary Nigerian without your background, and this alert, security alerts coming from the U.S., though they say it's directed at their staff and not necessarily Nigerians, how would you be receiving this?
Well, of course, when you have such advisory given by foreign governments, that you think have the capability and capacity to gather such information, ordinarily it should cause you to be vigilant. I think that's the important thing, because if we panic, then we lose it, and that's what the terrorists want. They want to create fear, they want to create panic. Therefore, what we've got to do is for the citizenry to come together, for the security forces to increase their synergy, collaboration, because in that way they are able to address this challenge. Now, we don't know, I'm not sure they've shared the details with the Nigerian security forces, but what is clear is that because of the situation around security across the country, the security forces are not resting on their oars. Right. They've been working round the clock. So it's just an added impetus for them to do more. But I think what is important, the citizens have to unite, irrespective of anything, and say, look, we are not going to give any ground to these people who want to terrorize us, cause fear and panic. I think that's the citizenry cooperate with the security agencies, and the security agencies ensure that there is collaboration. Once there is information that needs to be shared, such information should be shared timely.
Is that what should have been done from the get-go? I mean, the same security alert went to the South African government. Ramaphosa, the president of South Africa, actually condemned the U.S., for the way they went about it, not engaging government in any way or form. Should the U.S. have engaged maybe the security agencies, government?
Yeah, so many things go behind the background that you and I may not get to know the details.
Right.
But I think if somebody comes with an advisory that they think there's a heightened security threat, I would prefer to err on the side of caution than to allow myself be taken unawares. And what I would do, since the security agencies have been in a state of alert all this while, with all the banditry, all the kidnapping, and the ISWAP activities, but in the northeast, the Headers Farmers Clash, and all of these things, all the security agencies in the country have been on alert, and they have been working hard. But what is important, the public have to see themselves as part of this war. Right. That the security agencies cannot do it alone. And I am glad that the first PPRO has gave a wide circulation to police helplines across the 36 states, including the FCT. And I urge the public to carefully look at those numbers, try them out, they work.
And see the numbers are efficient. It's
important
in the first place.
that it is the cooperation we give the security forces is going to give them success. And we are going to look at everything around us, what is not going right. Let's look at the FCT, for example. You have a lot of queues of fuel. Therefore, the fuel allocation to FCT, somebody has got to monitor the fuel deliveries to the FCT so that the fuel for FCT does not get diverted. And then you have these long queues and you have anything,
more vulnerable points.
We've got to reduce the vulnerabilities across the FCT and other parts of the country. Let us increase fuel supply so that these lines will just be a thing of the past. And then all the measures that the government is taking. I'm particularly impressed when I read about the FCT minister making a substantial allocation to the special constabulary under the community policing scheme. I think he has given about 500 million. And again, the FCT area council, 6 of them, he also asked each of them not to give less than 100 million. You see, once you have this special constabulary that the president approved in April 2020, work in our communities, they act as force multiplier for the security agencies.
But you'll need a lot of confidence building for the people, for the citizenry to buy in and cooperate with security agencies. But when you hear the president, sort of trying to downplay this security threat, while asking at the same time Nigerians to be, wary, to be careful, and not to take anything for granted. How does that come to you?
Yeah, but what do the terrorists want?
Right.
It's to create fear and panic. And I think what the president has said is to say, look, let us not give in to these evil people. And that's why in my introductory remarks, I had remarked that we need to close ranks, irrespective of our differences, and unite against these evil forces. And so what I think the president is saying, look, these people, they are always out there to embarrass you, to create you fear, to kill you, and do all those things. But don't give in to them. If you give in to them, they've succeeded. So what you've got to do is, once you see something around your neighborhood, wherever you find yourself, anything that is unusual, report to relevant security agencies. It is in doing that, because the miracle that the security forces perform is the collaboration they receive from the public. And I think, you see, the AIG proactively carrying out, I think, Operation Dark in Gagawa.
Yes,
and then
Operation Quick Intervention.
Quick Intervention.
Yeah, but then again, that operation, yes, it's called Quick Intervention. It does seem like reactionary rather than, being more proactive. But do you think there may be intel that is missing, or is it a refusal or failure to use intel that may have led the United States to come up with this advisory or security alert? Because now it's not only the US, it's not just the UK, you have Denmark, Bulgaria, other countries have joined in to say it is not safe to be in Abuja.
Yeah. But I think this is not the first time we're receiving advisories. Sometimes they isolate some states in Nigeria and they advise their nationals, don't visit those places. I don't know the motivation for this particular one, because if you know the motivation, you are in a better position to be able to interpret and translate what you think this is intended, to achieve. But they have a duty also to their citizens. If they think, but they have their own capability. But I think the Nigerian security forces are also brainstorming. And so I think at this stage we cannot talk about intelligence failure, because I think the various security agencies are doing their best. And the operation that the AIG talked about, don't forget, we are in an election year. And then you are having a lot of mass gatherings. So the AIG is trying to sharpen further the skill of his personnel by constantly reminding them, engaging in different operations. And so in doing this, what the AIG is saying, look, you've got to be on your toes. And I think that is just not the only thing the Inspector General of Police is doing.
One must also say that in recent weeks or months, if you like, it seemed like there had been some kind of progress in terms of that sense of security for the average Nigerian, only to hear this. In determining that security breach at a very large level could, you know, be hiding around the corner, what are the things you actually look for? I mean, if you were, you've been in the forces.
Yeah.
What are those, you know, pointers that tell you, look, we need to, you know, upgrade our security preparedness?
Yeah, you see, once you have this state of affairs, I mean, the situation
Yes.
that we're having this conversation around, what do? You've got to look at those hotspots, because don't forget, we have had experiences. Of course, we've had some bombings and arrests were made. There are lessons that must have been learned from this. We had the military, the gas brigade had an operation around Buhari where, you know, something happened. Lessons have been learned about all this. But in the FCT, for example,
yes,
you've got to, there are a few things that the FCT does that I think is good. Why not trying to criminalize poverty? The use of Okada within the city center in particular, all these things must be discouraged as much as possible.
Okay.
And then some of the settlements, you've got to infiltrate them, and I think that's what is going on. Because when you look at some of the outlying areas, Buhari, Gwagwalada, Zuba, Kuje, and some of these places, and I think particular attention is being paid to that. And then the plainclothes officers will do some of these things, but then you will proactively storm some of these places you think you could have some individuals who could be members of some of these cells.
Right.
And that is what is being done regularly, on a regular basis, because once you have the stop and search, I mean, officers deployed to conduct routine checks, and these officers properly supervise.
Don't you think at that stage where you have to do stop and search, the genie may already be out of the bottle? What about a more proactive, you know, move like manning the borders? Don't allow these weapons to come into Nigeria. Recall, we are told that about 70% of the over 700,000 small and, you know, light weapons in the West Africa sub-region alone is in Nigeria. That means, I mean, these people are coming in with weapons without any hindrance.
Yeah, but you know, recently in the Office of the National Security Advisor, the Small Arms and Light Weapons Unit was established to deal principally with this. Of course, there are challenges with the border, but I think efforts have been made to strengthen security along our borders. So once you talk about the borders, it is difficult. You are not going to be able to wall around the whole Nigerian borders. And again, talking about the similarities in culture with some of these bordering communities, you are not going to just shut them out. But what do? You've got to find a way, either through technology, because technology is a force multiplier. So you don't have to seal the borders, but there are technologies in place that you can place at those borders, and I think some of those things have been done. So, and then you also have, in some places, the local who can produce some of these weapons. You've got to monitor those places and be careful. But what is so critical about this issue of this is about, because you are not going to have your eyes, you've got to have the public as your eyes and ears in these communities. You are not going to just seal the border. But if you say these things are just coming from the border, we've got to look at different parts of societies, the various communities. Every community has got to be interested in what happens. Let me tell you, you don't need all the guns. You've got to activate from the ward level. You are supposed to have a security committee. You go to the local government level, and you go to the state level.
Do we have all of this that you're talking about within our security agencies right now? The police, the military.
No,
do
that's
you have
part
them?
of the security architecture. But it behoves on all governments. It's also about governance. The governors and the federal government. You hear in some states, You may not have security committee of the states meeting, but in other places they meet regularly.
Right.
You see, once you have these meetings taking place at ward level, at local government level, at state level, then you begin to piece information from different parts of the state. And then this builds up, and with proper analysis, you are able to intercept and intercede and be able to prevent. Okay. And all this happen, you don't need to shoot any gun, because you have somebody come to settle your community. You don't know where they have come from. And if you don't discuss about them, because what does not get measured does not get done.
Absolutely.
We've got to ensure that the ward level security committees take place, the local government security committees take place, and they go to the state and they are passed that to the Office of National Security Advisor for analysis to be passed to the National Security Council. And all these things will be deliberated. Once you follow and effectively the national security architecture,
yes,
with everybody playing his role, I assure you, the issue of security, you don't have to begin to fire guns and every place will be calm. Because security is local. It emanates from our communities. And from those communities, we can deal with them.
Thank you so much, Wilson Inalegwu, retired AIG, for joining us on Newsnight tonight.